Hey everyone. I know it's been a while since I last posted a video, but I needed to take some time off to focus on myself, my own personal life. However, it's finally summer break for me now, so I can start posting more, and I've been planning on videos that to post over the upcoming days and weeks. But then I saw some jaw-dropping news yesterday. Damian Lillard, my favorite basketball player ever, one of my many inspirations, one of my favorite people to have met in person in my life. He requested a trade from the team that he was loyal to all these years, the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, let me get something straight here. I had a feeling that this whole scenario was going to come eventually. But I just didn't think it was going to come now, and I'll explain why. So, obviously, the day before the trade request happened, we had re-signed Jeremy Grant to a 5-year deal, and while it might have been a bit of an overpay, like people have been saying, I still felt like that was somewhat enough to just tell Dame that we're still contending. Because here's the thing, our starting lineup would have been Dame, Simons, Matisse Thybulle, Jeremy Grant, Yusuf Nurkic. Now, obviously, I know that we could probably improve on Matisse Thybulle, but keep in mind, we still had Scoot Henderson, we still had Shaden Sharp, and we might have, traded Anthony Simons or something so that we could get a better small forward and so that Shaden could start at shooting guard. But apparently that wasn't enough, and I can, see why. Because the front office is probably the biggest problem with this whole scenario. They clearly were not doing anything around him. And I think one big example of this is the fact that Lillard hasn't played with an all-star player on his team since LaMarcus Aldridge back in like 2014 or something. And even recently, when we drafted Scoot Henderson in his most recent draft, we could have easily traded the pick to get some proven talent to help, win around Dame. I know people were saying we might get Bam Adebayo, we might get Jalen Brown, all these different packages involving the number 3 overall pick, just for some proven talent to help this team win now, which is what Dame wanted. He wanted to do it now. He wanted to do it here in Portland. But when we drafted Scoot Henderson, I mean, I was happy because it was Scoot Henderson, but I was also a little bit confused. I was kind of questioning how are we going to play both Dame and Scoot in our lineup. And it looks like now we won't be playing both Dame and Scoot Henderson in the lineup, and it looks like Scoot is just going to be starting from day one of this upcoming season. And I obviously do hope, as a fan, that Scoot he can blossom into another star, and I hope that the young pieces we have now, like Shaden Sharp and Anthony Simons, now Chris Murray, Ryan Repair, they can all help this team go in the right direction moving forward. But we still did Dame so dirty, and that's what really makes me mad here as a fan. Like knowing that we could have helped Dame, but we didn't. That's what makes this whole situation just awful for him. Like I feel bad for him. The main reason why I feel bad for him is not just because of, the front office, but it's because all these years, Dame literally carried us. And he was practically a one-man army from the moment Aldridge left to now. And I know you can make an argument saying that he was a one-man army from the moment CJ McCollum left back in February 2022. But Dame, in 2019, he took a team that had Maurice Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, and at the time Enes Kanter, obviously now it's Enes Freedom. But he took a team that had those three people, those three players, as the starting front court of this team, and he led them to a Western Conference Finals appearance. Like that is insane for a lineup with those kinds of players. And then obviously the other two starting players were Dame and CJ. But Dame was obviously the reason we beat the Thunder in 5 games, that iconic game winner in game 5. That will forever be a moment I remember. And even against the Nuggets, he, forced a game 7 to happen. That 4 OT thriller in Portland, game 3, that was crazy. That was what a game that was. And a big reason why is because we played well as a team. We put together a good team, but the thing was, it could have been better. Like, obviously, Yusuf Nurkic was injured. He had broken his leg. And pre-broken leg Nurkic, he was a good player. He played well, he was productive, all that good stuff. And then he got injured, and since coming back off of that broken leg, he just has not been the same player. And that's also, I feel, a big reason why Dame is doing this now is because the players that we did have, they're just not as good now. But anyway, most of these guys are now just out of the league. And after we got swept that year in 2019, we just didn't do anything significant to improve around him. The most significant thing we probably did was trade for Jeremy Grant. But what else did we do? Like in 2021, most recently, during the playoff series against the Nuggets, he had that 55-point game in game 5. He was insanely clutch, forcing overtime, forcing a double overtime. Like he was carrying the entire team on his back. He played insanely well. He just gave it his all. But it was just clear that day that he was practically just the only guy on the team who wanted to win that day. Nobody else on the team was serious enough, and we just ended up choking in that game. And obviously, we would end up losing the next game as well. And while we did make trades in the process to at least try and improve the team, when we did make these trades for players at the trade deadline these past few years, we would acquire them a certain year just to trade them again a year later and get practically nothing in return. For example, we got Norman Powell back at the 2021 trade deadline, and we got Robert Covington in 2020 free agency. But in 2022, in the trade deadline, we ended up trading both of them in a trade that included a 32-year-old Eric Bledsoe. Like, who is the centerpiece of this trade supposed to be for us? Is it supposed to be a 32-year-old Eric Bledsoe who we would just end up waiving a few months later? Is it supposed to be Keon Johnson? Is it supposed to be Justice Winslow? That random second round pick we got? Like, what is supposed to be the main asset for us here? Like, it's not like Norman Powell and Robert Covington were absolutely dreadful. Like, yes, Covington could have played better. I mean, anyone can play better. Like, they're not always going to be good. Everyone has their off games. Everyone has days where they're just not playing like they're supposed to. But to get this kind of value for those two players is absolutely blasphemous. Like, that's just not good. Like, that's all I need to say. It's not good. And then when we traded CJ McCollum that same year, that same trade deadline, the primary asset we got back was Josh Hart. And Josh Hart, he was a pretty good player. But even he would be traded 1 year later for Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish. And we decided not to bring him back in this free agency. It would end up going to something like the Lakers, I think. But we might have ended up getting Chris Murray in the draft thanks to that first round pick we got from the Knicks in that trade. But the biggest thing to know here is the fact that Dame clearly expressed near the end of the season that he doesn't want any more teenagers on this team. He said he wanted to win here, he said he wanted to win now, but Joe Cronin, don't even get me started on this guy, but him and the front office, they constantly lied to us fans over the past year, and even with the old regime under Neil O'Shea. Like, O'Shea really wasn't a absolutely glorified wonderkind GM. And anyway, this GM, this front office in particular, they just lie to us over the past year saying, oh, we're building around Dame. We're trying to stay competitive. We're going to try and win now. We're going to try and make some moves, blah, 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 blah. But they did not keep up to this promise in any way, shape, or form. And that is honestly what, again, this is again what pisses me off so much here, is the fact that they kept on saying this and we kept on believing them. But in reality, they're literally just out here, like, baiting us. They're literally tricking us. They're trying to trick us into thinking that this front office is, serious and committed to winning. But no, they're not. If they really were, they would have actually done something. Done something significant, that is, aside from trading for Jeremy Grant. And yeah, that's just, I can't even get started with how disappointing this front office has been all these years. Like 2019 truly felt like our last chance to win. Because in that series against the Warriors, we were up in like 2, 3 games by double digits. We blew all of those. If we held on to those leads, we might have just won the series, and who knows if we would win the finals against the Raptors or Bucks in that year. We legit might have just won the finals. Like we were one series win away from making the finals that year, but we just blew it. And I think one big reason why is because of the team we built that year. It was a miracle that they made it that far, and I'm happy they obviously made it that far. We were all happy, but in that actual series, it just completely fell apart. And since then, everything has just been going down and down and down like a whirlpool or something. I don't even know. But yeah, the front office, they just weren't committed to what they said they were committed to. And that made a lot of people, including me, angry. So it was definitely a mess, to say the least. So to sum all this up, I think it's safe to say that based on what I've expressed here, the front office were the ones who did him dirty the most. From Neil O'Shea to Joe Cronin to just anyone else in the front office who did not do anything to properly improve the team around Dame, they are probably the ones they're probably the ones to blame the most here. And I think it's also worth noting that Jody Allen, who's the current owner of the team, she literally only cares about money. That's literally all she wants. And if you're an owner, you have to show like some kind of like care towards the franchise you're an owner of. Like that's probably one of the biggest pieces of your job. It's probably arguably your entire job just to, show that you care about the franchise and you care about what they do. But it feels like Jody Allen just doesn't care. And that's what, makes me as a Blazers fan, that's what makes me just upset about how this team is managed. So, obviously, the biggest things that this team needs, we need a good, competent GM because Joe Cronin, he just is terrible. I'm gonna be honest. He is just terrible. The only good thing he did was trade for Jeremy Grant, at least for the price that we gave up. I mean, we'll see how Scoot Henderson plays out. I mean, Shaden Sharp, he's looked good already. But drafting Shaden Sharp and then trading for Jeremy Grant, that's probably it. Those are probably the only two things he's done. Uh, Like I said, we'll see how the season plays out. If Scoot Henderson, Chris Murray, Ryan Repair, they all just have insane careers, I'll be a little less mad at Joe Cronin. But again, he should have just listened to Dame. Dame said he wanted proven talent. Listen to him. He's your all-time leading franchise scorer, and he wants to win here. Respect that. Just do everything you can to let him win here. And we also just need an owner who cares about Portland and about the Trailblazers. And we also might just have to fire Chauncey Billups as well while we're at it. Like, I'm pretty sure Mike Budenholzer is still available as a coach, but as long as this front office is still there, I already know we would not hire anyone of that caliber. And that's what just drains all my hope. And when this Damian Lillard trade does eventually happen, I just hope that the front office won't find a way to screw that up as well. But at this point, as a fan, my faith in them is probably at the lowest of lows. So even I'm not confident that they'll just maximize the value they get from this trade either. But anyway, I'll forever be grateful for Dame's services to the city of Portland. And Dame, if you're watching this, which I don't know if you are, but if you are, let me just tell you that I will always love you as a player. I'll always love you as a person. I'll always respect you as a person. You will forever be a true inspiration of mine, a true goat of mine. And the city of Portland as a whole, they'll also always love you, respect you for everything you've done. And I'm just sorry that you were treated this way by your front office. And I think it's also worth saying that I hope you win a ring wherever you go because you 110% deserve it. You deserve that and so much more. We all wish it could have been here in Portland, but you know what they say, some things just aren't meant to be. After all, it was Dame time for all these years, but the clock has officially stopped now, and it's officially time now for a new era of Blazers basketball.